Hi everyone, I'm Summer Inanen.
Hey, and I'm Sarah Ramsden. And in today's episode of SNS TV, we are talking about getting over the confusion of how many meals you should be eating per day. There's a lot of conflicting stuff out there.
Yeah.
Now we hear people who are into grazing, they don't really make a meal, they just kind of eat throughout the day. There are people who say that you should have multiple meals, smaller meals through the day, and then you have the traditional crowd who are just 3 meals a day.
Yeah, so which one should you do?
So first of all, grazing. I'm sorry guys, you're not cows. We're not designed to graze. And this is to do with how our digestion works. So there's this mechanism in our body called peristalsis. And it's basically this contraction of the kind of digestive system that takes food from your mouth all the way through to the colon and right out of your body when you go to the bathroom. And it's very much like a contraction like this, and it moves food along and through your system.
Like a giant caterpillar.
Yes, but not a cow.
Not a cow.
Not a cow. So we have this peristalsis motion that moves food through our system when we're eating and digesting, but also there's something called cleansing waves. And this is that same peristaltic movement when we're not digesting food that really just goes through and cleans out the system, gets rid of any food that we kind of missed when we were digesting and just generally eating our food. And this typically happens when we're not digesting food, usually a few hours after we've eaten or when we're asleep. So what does that tell you? If you're grazing throughout the day, your body is not going to have a chance to do these peristaltic cleansing waves through the body. And ideally we have about 9 of these per day. So if you're grazing, you're not going to have this happen. Now there are other things that affects this kind of cleansing system, and that's things like stress and what else is there? Medications and things like that. So there are other things involved in this, but don't add something else, because this lack of kind of cleansing waves is one of the things that contributes to the development of conditions like SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Yeah, I think the other thing with grazing too to mention is that often if you're grazing, you're not really paying attention to the food that you're eating. You know, maybe you're watching TV or you're working, and so you're mindlessly putting food into your mouth. And often then, you know, we're not registering what that food feels like in our body, we're not chewing it slowly. And psychologically, you know, your brain doesn't always equate for the quantity of food that you have eaten because you're not putting it all on a plate and eating it in a sitting. So that's another perspective on it as well, why we don't normally suggest grazing with our clients. The second, you know, you've probably heard people say that you should have multiple small meals per day. And so, you know, this works in some people who are hypoglycemic because they have blood sugar dysregulation, so they need to eat more frequently. But that's more of a short-term solution. It's not something that we recommend long-term. If you're balancing out your meals properly, so you have a good amount of protein and some fat that's going to keep you satiated, that meal should keep you full for about 4 or 5 hours. So you shouldn't really need to snack in between. But there are some caveats to that. One of them would be if you're underweight. If you're trying to gain weight, then obviously you're going to need to eat more frequently. If you're a pregnant person or woman, I guess, you're going to need to eat.
Hopefully.
Well, you never know in this day and age. You're going to need to eat more frequently as well. You know, and you obviously want to listen to your body. If your body's saying like, I'm really hungry and I need to eat right now, then you should probably obey it and eat. But generally speaking, you don't need to eat small meals per day.
And then that takes us to the 3 kind of standard meals a day, which is what we are fans of. And because once you have, let's say you had that hypoglycemic kind of reactions, once you've gotten over that, you should be aiming for 3 times a day. You should be able to get from breakfast to lunch and lunch to dinner without needing to eat. Like, you can have a snack if you're particularly active or anything like that, but there really isn't a need. Now, we often have clients come to us, and I think you're the same as me actually. They come to us and they say, you know, I don't eat breakfast because I'm not hungry. But very often actually when they say this, they also at the same time say their energy is very low. But if you're not hungry for breakfast, that is very often a sign of some kind of hormonal dysregulation. And often it's an imbalance in the kind of rhythms between cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and leptin, which helps control your appetite. And these are all connected to the circadian rhythm, so that kind of wake-sleep cycle. So if you're not hungry in the morning, the best way to start resolving this is to force yourself to have something for breakfast, which helps start correcting and aligning these rhythms again.
And most people feel better when they start to do that too. They find they don't, snack as much later, or, have like giant dinners. Like it balances out your food consumption throughout the day.
Yeah, and even socially, culturally, eating 3 meals a day, it just makes your life a lot easier. Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that's it for this one.
So,
oh yeah, I think just if you're an athlete, you obviously are going to need to eat more.
Yeah, even, I would say even your 3 meals a day plus even a whole nother meal plus your pre and post workout nutrition potentially, depending on how you're training.
Yeah, and depending on your size too.
Yeah, and that's like a whole nother episode.
Yes. Oh, and also check out Sarah's post on the circadian rhythms and what leads to, why we're talking about why you may not be hungry at breakfast and why you should eat.
Yeah.
So we'll link to those in the show notes as
For
well.
Sure.
And definitely check out our website. So I'm at summerinanin.com, where you can get my free starter kit, which includes lots of different things, but specifically a guide to breaking up with the diet mentality. And
come to my website, sarahramsden.com, that's Sarah with an H. And you'll find free resources that you can sign up for, things like guides on how to fit healthy meals into your lifestyle, even though you're crazy busy, which is 99% of us. And also a lot of free resources on fermentation, as well as my fermentation classes, Fearless Fermentation.
Yeah, and we want to know from you, how do you thrive? Do you prefer to eat small meals in a day, or do you eat 3 meals a day? What's worked for you? So let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you on the next episode of SNS TV.